Imagine a world where Yuri manga roamed. Beautiful women, roses adorning the panels, girls throwing up on themselves while peeing in their partner's mouths. Sanctuary. Now, if I've said it once, I said it a million times in internet lore theory. I love psychological manga. I adore characters that are just apeshit insane that make choices where you're like, bro, what the f? Everybody hates him, but then you get a backstory and then you're like, okay, he's got hands. It's kind of hard to hate him all of a sudden, but f him anyway. I love when characters do really weird shit, makes no sense, but it's psychology. Okay? Ever heard of Freud? So it's because of my love for psychological manga, I often use the psychology tag to look for new manga. It brought me down some questionable roads, but the road I'm going to be talking about today is a manga called Hitanai Kimi ga Ichiban Kawaii, which in English means you're the most cutest when you're dirty. Now, in your head, you're thinking, dirty, okay, like this, we're getting a little smutty guy. No, it's not what you're thinking of. Now, what drew me to this was the cover and how cute it looked, as well as, you know, a Yuri tag. Now, there's a lot of psychological Yuri, but none that sounded quite as ominous as this. The description sounded just really like it was very vague, but you didn't know. It's not gonna let you know at all what you're signing up for, I'll tell you that. But it gave away enough to make you feel interested. Now, before I begin talking about the story as well as what it's about, I have to say I tried reading this manga twice, and I always stopped after the first chapter because it has some very questionable things right when you read it. But before we continue with the video, I would like to give thanks to today's sponsor, NordVPN. Now, when we're in public, you're not walking around naked, are you? Are you? Well, that's essentially what you're doing when you're using the internet without a VPN. Using Wi-Fi networks, especially free ones, allows scammers to get your private information. But with a VPN, it encrypts your data and makes it impossible. A VPN also allows you to gain access to different countries' Netflix shows. Like, for example, I love the show Peep Show, but it is only available on British Netflix. So all I do is just use NordVPN and I get to watch it whenever I like. NordVPN is also the fastest VPN in the world, so no long waits needed to protect yourself or gain access to the things you want. It also has malware protection with its threat protection feature. You can get 4 months extra with a 2-year plan by using my link, nordvpn.com/Sydsnap. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day cashback guarantee. All the links are on the screen and in the description. Thank you again to NordVPN, and now back to the video. Now, the story begins with a high school girl named Heidi, who is the most perfect, most beautiful, smartest girl in her entire school. Everybody loves her. She's your typical, normal high school girl. Except she's not, because she's perfect at everything. We start with our story seeing Heidi surrounded by her classmates and talking with them, while she's also sneaking glances at a different classmate called Hina, who's just across the classroom talking with her own friends, but she's a bit more quiet and keeps to herself. They don't really interact with each other. Until after they're done with school, we see Heidi begin to walk to an empty classroom. Empty except for Hina. Now, you might be thinking this is a private, romantic Yuri rendezvous, especially because it begins with some very heavy petting. But then suddenly, Heidi begins to shove her fingers down Hina's mouth. Not in a cute, playful way, but no, more of like a shoving it down her throat. And Hina just ends up throwing up all over herself suddenly. And it is all over the fucking place. And it's from that moment on, we find out that Heidi has a fetish for defilement. She loves making Hina do disgusting things. She likes to ruin her image, especially with a lot of her own fluids. Taking something cute and making it gross. That's kind of the simpler way to put it. Now, throughout the story, we kind of start to realize that Heidi is a bit of a psychopath. She doesn't really care about the feelings of the people around her and doesn't really even seemingly care about Hina at all. She only cares about what Hina can give to her. Heidi also knows how she is perceived and how she wants to be perceived. She knows exactly how to seem like the perfect girl because she wants to look like the perfect girl. And she kept that up until we got to the beginning of how this whole predicament started, when she saw Hina accidentally throw up at herself at school. It awakened something in her that made her realize her fetish. And then afterwards, she followed Hina to the bathroom, where she found out that she had her period, and then she's like, oh, please show me. And then that's kind of how, their relationship started. Now, as the series go on, the requests start to become a lot more disturbing to a very grotesque degree. She makes Hina suck on a pacifier, okay? She makes Hina wear a diaper, okay? She makes Hina piss in front of her and makes her drink her piss. But the worst one by far, without a doubt, was the piercing chapter. They usually fine because you're getting it done by a professional, and even then, sometimes it hurts. But Airi decides to give Hina a belly button piercing. I never really knew the dynamics of getting a belly button piercing, but apparently it requires a lot of taking a very thick, sharp pole a bit and tearing your skin. I don't know. It was awful. There was so much skin tearing. There wasn't even any blood. It was just so hard to read that chapter. I'm just thinking about it. And either way, they keep this up. And you might be thinking what I thought, that maybe this just kind of keeps on as a Yuri fetish manga. But while doing the act one day, the girls got caught by a classmate without noticing. And that classmate took a picture of them during their acts. And she sent that picture to everybody in their class. Now, Airi, who wanted to maintain this perfect girl image and wanted this to be an extremely private aspect of her life, decided to completely cut Hina off, have no more interactions with her, and try to save what she could. She wanted to get her old life back. But of course, a lot of her friends were like, bro, like, what the f was that? And Hina becomes desperate to make Airi acknowledge her again. She wants any form of relationship with Airi she can get. But Airi is very staunchly, fuck off, I want my normal life back, and you're not a part of that. But then Airi begins to slowly get kind of bullied by her classmates, and then she decides to kind of just quit school and become hikikomori. She becomes increasingly awfully lonely. And that's when Hina kind of steps in. And she wants to ensure that Airi only has Hina to depend on. Hina becomes fucking unhinged. Now this manga perfectly encapsulates what a train wreck a relationship can be. How toxic and unhealthy can two people be together? Well, this really answers it. It gives you that and so much more. The characters begin to twist and turn into completely different characters from what we initially saw. We begin to wonder who's really the villain, who's the victim, what relationship is this? There's so many questions. And Jesus, does it make me keep coming back for more. Now, there are a lot of fetish manga out there, and there are some fetish Yuri manga out there even, but this is without a doubt one of the hardest psychological mangas I have ever read. And a large part of that is because we don't know how far this manga is going to go. We don't know how grotesque it's going to be or what any character is going to do at any given moment, because so many of them are just not well in their heads. It is because of that this manga is so refreshing. A lot of Yuri, as well as psychological manga, has become a bit predictable. You usually can tell what character is going to do what, or you can easily predict how the relationship's going to progress from this one event. So to be able to read a manga that I cannot predict, where I initially would think, oh, this is gonna happen, and it is something completely out of left field, is a dream. How many I read manga every single day, and I can't tell you when the last time I could read a manga that I couldn't predict was. A manga so balls off the wall crazy that you literally have no idea where it's gonna take you. It is a roller coaster, and it is so fun. It is so fun. Fun in a really depressing and psychological torture-ish kind of way, but you know what? It's who's gonna pick and choose here? This series properly signifies morbid curiosity, and it helps that the art is so cute, because although it is cute, it has a very dark and unsettling ambience set in a realistic school setting. And the perfect combination of dark ambience with the cute artwork makes your stomach churn, because what you're looking at, although it's drawn cutely, isn't a cute thing you're looking at, really. Now, I know that's a kind of common thing to do in manga, especially in horror manga, where they use a sort of cute art style, even though it's not a cute, storyline. It will be gross, and there will be, blah. But for this, I feel like the reason why it is done so well is because it is realistic. Realistic in the sense that a lot of the things that the girls go through, if they did or say or were caught doing a certain thing, a lot of what people said to them or acted probably would be the case. When we see Airi begin to go into a deep, deep depression, when we see Hina begin to kind of lose a bit of her mind because she is so obsessed with getting Airi to love her or get her attention. The artwork in it is just, for such a dark, it's The writing at times is definitely not the best. Like, for example, none of the characters in the series are even somewhat likable. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it didn't really add anything. The main characters also would sometimes make choices that didn't really correspond with what they were saying before, and it didn't really make any sense why they chose those choices. But altogether, this was an incredibly fascinating read. I'm saying this now, you really won't guess the ending. The ending. I remember when I got to the ending and I gasped. I was so shocked. After I pushed myself to kind of finish this series, I would not put it down. I was hooked. I read all 5 volumes within like one day. Because once you start and get past sort of the fetish bits at the beginning and kind of get to that juicy little middle part, you are gonna be hooked. You are not going to be able to put it down just like me. You're going to be wondering every day, every moment that you're not reading this, what's going to happen. It is one of the most unpredictable mangas I have read maybe ever. We'll never be rereading it again. It is a tragedy. It is unhinged. It is twisted. And Jesus Christ, was it fun. It is 100% not for the faint of heart. Obviously, if what I have already said isn't enough to guess that, I don't really know what else to tell you. Maybe you don't have a faint heart then. I promise you, you will finish this, you will set it down, and you will feel nothing but a strong sense of hopelessness as well as fear. You will feel depressed and altogether probably pretty sick with yourself. And most likely you will also be wondering, definitely initially, why you even read this, but I'm sure after you think about it for a while, you'll probably come up with your own set of answers. I mean, shit, you might even reread it and get a better answer for yourself than you did the first time. It is a terrifying read and one I do not recommend you read while you're eating. I mean, there's so much puke. There's a lot of puke in there. Either way, thank you guys for watching this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're thinking about supporting this channel, then please check out my Patreon links, which are in the description, or type in patreon.com/Sydsnap. Thank you again to all my patrons that have supported me. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!